Welcome to Cambodia. Today we learn about Tep Pranam Temple. Episode 5.22 Tep Pranam Temple. Tep Pranam Temple is a Buddhist temple that features a giant seated Buddhist statue built from sandstone blocks. 12 The temple was built around the 16th century. 2 The interior of the Buddhist statue reuses many stone blocks, and the head appears to have been constructed later. 3 Located north of the terrace of the Leper King and the Royal Palace, Tep Pranam is approached from the east by a 75-meter-long and 8-meter-wide laterite causeway. 30 For this causeway ends on the west side in a terrace with double sima, or Buddhist boundary markers, at the corners and on the axis. 3 The building housing the Buddha would have been made of wood, which has since disappeared. The structure was constructed on a cruciform foundation. 3 The temple is one of the most serene areas in Angkor Park. 4 Keep pins saved to note. There is no mention of how researchers study Tep Pranam Temple in the provided sources. However, according to the sources, researchers used a variety of methods, including 3D scanning, microscopic analysis, and pollen analysis, to study other temples at Angkor, such as Angkor Wat, Bayon Thom, and Prasit Kna. 1234 These methods allowed researchers to create detailed 3D models of the temple's 15. Study the composition of the materials used to build the temple's 67. Understand the construction techniques used by the Khmer builders. 8910. Reconstruct the history of the temples and the surrounding city. 4 It is possible that researchers have used similar methods to study Tep Pranam Temple, but this is not mentioned in the provided sources. Tep Pranam Temple. Tep Pranam is a serene and historically significant temple located within the Angkor Thom complex in Cambodia. Here are some details about this unique temple. Historical background. Construction. Built at the end of the 9th century by King Yasovarman I, Tep Pranam was originally a Buddhist shrine. Relocation. The temple was later moved and expanded during the reigns of subsequent kings, including additions in the 12th and 13th centuries. Architectural features. Layout. The temple is accessed via a long laterite causeway, approximately 75 meters long and 8 meters wide, leading to a terrace with double sima, Buddhist boundary markers, at the corners and on the axis. Terrace. The terrace is cross-shaped and features molded sandstone walls with serpent balustrades added in later periods. Central sanctuary. The main feature of Tep Pranam is a large seated Buddha statue made from reused sandstone blocks. The statue is seated on a lotus pedestal and is coated in sandstone. 1 Cultural significance. Religious ceremonies. As a raised platform, Tep Pranam was used for religious ceremonies and public gatherings. Peaceful atmosphere. The temple is located in a serene area of Angkor Thom, making it a peaceful spot for visitors to explore and reflect. Tep Pranam offers a glimpse into the religious and architectural heritage of the Khmer Empire, blending elements of Hinduism and Buddhism. Tep Pranam is a temple located in Angkor Thom, Cambodia, about 100 meters north of the terrace of the Leper King. 12. It is known for its giant seated Buddha statue made of sandstone blocks. 12. The statue is still worshipped today. 1. While the statue's interior is constructed from many reused stone blocks, its head seems to be from a later period. 1. The temple itself was likely built from wood, but it has since disappeared. 3. The statue sits on a cruciform foundation. 3. A laterite causeway, 75 meters long and 8 meters wide, leads to the statue from the east. 3. The causeway ends in a terrace marked by double sima, Buddhist boundary markers, at its corners and axis. 3. Tep Pranam is considered one of the most serene areas in Angkor Park. Visitors are encouraged to take their time exploring this area, including the nearby Priya Palilai Temple. 2. The sources provide limited information regarding the specific reasons behind the construction of Tep Pranam Temple. They do, however, note that the temple was built around the 16th century and features a giant seated Buddhist statue made of sandstone that is still worshipped today. Point 12. While the sources do not explicitly state why the king built Tep Pranam, some insights can be gleaned. The presence of a large, worshipped Buddhist statue suggests a dedication to Buddhism. This aligns with the broader context of Angkor's religious history, which saw periods of both Hindu and Buddhist dominance. The temple's construction during the 16th century places it within the later stages of Angkor's history. By this time, the Khmer Empire had already experienced significant decline. The construction of a Buddhist temple may reflect the evolving religious landscape and the continued importance of religious devotion during this period. It's important to acknowledge that the specific motivations of the king who commissioned Tep Pranam remain unknown. Further research and archaeological discoveries may shed more light on the temple's history and purpose. Thank you for listening, and see you soon in Cambodia. Stay turns.
Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into the ancient city of Angkor today.
Angkor, fascinating place.
Yeah. Specifically, we're focusing on this Tep Pranam Temple.
Okay.
And we've got some really cool sources on Angkor Wat itself.
Right.
And some of the structures around it, like the Bafun.
Yeah.
And Priya Palale, which, those should give us some context for Tep Pranam.
Yeah.
And kind of where it fits into this whole historical landscape.
Yeah, absolutely.
So are you ready to try and uncover some secrets of this lesser-known temple?
Absolutely, yeah. It's interesting how Tep Pranam, even though it's pretty small, compared to these massive temples like Angkor Wat, it still poses a lot of really interesting questions for researchers.
Yeah, Angkor Wat itself is just, it's mind-boggling. I mean, it covers an area larger than 200 football fields.
Yeah.
And it's got this moat around it that's wider than most city blocks.
Yeah, it's just a testament to, the scale of it, to the Khmer Empire's, their architectural prowess.
Yeah.
To think they built this thing in just 4 decades.
Wow.
Using 10 million sandstone blocks.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
That is just an insane, how do you even begin to move those kind of massive stones?
Right.
We have all this technology today.
Right. They had to be really resourceful. So they used a network of canals and waterways.
Oh, wow.
And they would actually float these sandstone blocks.
Oh, wow.
From quarries that were miles away.
That's incredible. What a logistical masterpiece.
Yeah.
And I also read that, it's not just the size, it's the precision of the work.
Yeah.
The stones fit together so tightly. I read that you can't even slip a credit card.
That's right.
Between them?
They use a technique called frottage.
Frottage.
Which is essentially just like grinding the stones against each other until they fit perfectly. And so, that's a lot of skill and a lot of patience.
And manpower.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it really highlights the craftsmanship of these Khmer artisans.
Yeah. And then they used iron clamps. Right, to kind of reinforce the structure.
They did.
And it's kind of fascinating to me that we still don't know where they got the iron.
Yeah, that's one of the big mysteries.
Yeah.
Where did they get that much iron from? Did they have trade networks that we don't know about, or was there like a local source that hasn't been discovered yet?
It's incredible how with all of our technology today, Angkor still holds so many secrets.
Yeah.
And speaking of technology, recent LiDAR surveys have completely changed our understanding of Angkor.
Absolutely.
This is LiDAR is this amazing technology that allows us to basically see through the jungle overgrowth. And, what it revealed was pretty astonishing. It showed this incredibly well-planned
urban grid.
Yeah.
It was, far more extensive than
we ever thought.
Than anyone had previously thought.
So Angkor wasn't just this.
Just a couple temples.
Collection of temples.
Out in the jungle?
In the jungle.
It was a city.
It was a city, yeah.
A bustling metropolis.
Yeah. And we can see evidence now of, houses that were built on mounds to avoid flooding. These strategically placed ponds for water storage. And then this really like elaborate network of roads
Yes.
that connected everything. I mean, it's like LiDAR has given us this window into
the daily lives.
of the people.
Of the people who actually lived in the city.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's incredible. And it's also challenged some previous theories about Angkor's decline, right?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things they found was pollen in the moats.
Oh, wow.
And it suggests that Angkor didn't collapse suddenly.
It actually declined gradually.
So it wasn't just this like one big event that wiped everybody out.
Exactly. It was a more complicated story of probably environmental changes and social changes.
So, okay, so we've kind of set the stage here with the grandeur of Angkor and what LiDAR has revealed.
Yeah.
Well, let's zoom in on Tep Pranam finally.
Okay.
What is it about this temple that makes it so unique and intriguing?
So Tep Pranam, it is smaller, but it has some pretty fascinating kind of puzzles, I guess you could say. It's got this giant seated Buddha statue.
Okay.
Which is still worshipped today.
Wow.
And that statue is actually built from repurposed sandstone blocks.
Repurposed.
Yeah.
Okay, so that already hints at some kind of complex history.
Yeah.
And they think the head might have even been added later.
Potentially.
And where is it located? Where does Tep Pranam fit in this whole city?
So it's just north of the Terrace of the Leper King, which is another pretty significant structure in Angkor Thom.
Yeah.
And it's got this, it's built on a cruciform foundation, which is also kind of unique.
Okay.
And then there's a laterite causeway.
Laterite, now for our listeners who aren't familiar, what is laterite?
So laterite is a reddish soil. It's got a lot of iron and aluminum oxides.
Okay.
It's pretty common in tropical regions. And when it's exposed to air, it hardens.
Oh, okay.
So it makes it really good building material.
So this laterite causeway leads to Tep Pranam. Does that suggest like any kind of ritualistic
potentially
approach or significance?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, researchers are still looking into that. But it definitely seems like it was a deliberate design choice.
Yeah. And then you mentioned that the Buddha statue, the head, might have been added later. I mean, what could that mean? Could that have been a change in rulers?
Potentially.
Or a shift in religious practices?
Yeah. I mean, those are all possibilities.
Yeah.
You know, Angkor went through a transition from Hinduism to Buddhism.
Right.
And, as different rulers came into power, they might have, decided to modify existing structures.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that researchers are looking into.
I imagine, they could analyze like the style and the carving of the head. Mm-hmm. And that might give some clues. Yeah,
that would give us a good idea of when it was added and potentially why.
So it sounds like this one statue, just this one statue could hold so many clues.
Right.
To unlocking
the history of Tep Pranam.
Tep Pranam's history.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's just scratching the surface right there. I mean, what are some of the key questions that researchers are focusing on when they study Tep Pranam?
I mean, one of the big ones is when was it built? We don't have a firm construction date.
Oh, wow.
Was it all built at once or did it evolve over time like some of the other temples in Angkor?
Yeah. And knowing the time frame.
Right.
Would potentially connect it to specific rulers.
Exactly.
Or events in
Yeah.
Angkor's history.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
And what about those repurposed blocks?
Right.
Where did those come from? Were they taken from an earlier structure?
That's a good question.
That was on that same spot.
I mean, that's one of the things they're trying to figure out.
Yeah.
If we could analyze those blocks and figure out where they came from originally.
Yeah.
That could give us a lot of information about, what might have been there before.
Yeah, so it really is like a giant jigsaw puzzle. You're trying to put
it is, yeah.
together these little fragments of history. And what about the function of Tep Pranam? Was it just a religious site or did it have like a bigger civic purpose?
Yeah, that's another thing that researchers are working on. Was it a temple that just the elite worshipped at or did regular folks go there too?
Right.
Were there specific rituals or ceremonies that were unique to Tep Pranam? I mean, figuring all that out would give us a much more complete picture of what life was like in Angkor.
So I mean, what kind of research is being done? How are they trying to uncover all these details?
Well, I mean, archaeological excavation is still, a really important part of it.
Yeah.
Even small digs, could reveal buried foundations, maybe some artifacts, offerings, things like that, that could give us clues.
It's fun to imagine, archaeologists out there brushing away centuries of dirt and uncovering these little pieces of the past.
Yeah, it's a slow process, but it can be very rewarding. And then epigraphy.
Epigraphy.
Yeah, so epigraphy is the study of ancient inscriptions.
Oh.
So, if they were to find inscriptions at Tep Pranam, maybe even on those repurposed blocks that we're talking about, it could give us dates, names of patrons, or details about, what the temple was dedicated to.
Right. It'd be like finding a historical footnote etched in stone.
Exactly.
That's so cool.
And then, of course, there's comparative analysis.
Right.
By looking at Tep Pranam's architectural style, the iconography, the building materials, things like that, and comparing it to other temples, researchers can, start to kind of figure out where it fits within the overall chronology of craft art and architecture.
So even though it's a lesser known temple, it's clearly a really valuable piece.
It is.
Of this whole puzzle.
Yeah. I mean, it offers a unique perspective, I think, on this city.
And who knows what we'll find out in the future.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, with all these new technologies emerging all the time, imagine using ground penetrating radar.
Oh, yeah.
To map out any buried structures or even virtual reality to actually reconstruct what it might have looked like.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the possibilities are really exciting.
And it's prime.
With virtual reality, you could walk through the temple. You could, see those carvings up close. You could maybe even get a sense of what kind of rituals might have taken place.
It would be an incredible way to connect with the past.
Yeah.
To really immerse ourselves in the world.
Yeah.
Of the ancient Khmer people.
Yeah.
But even with all of this,
the
research and the technology and everything.
Absolutely.
There's still a sense of mystery.
There is. There's a...
Wouldn't you say?
There's a lot we don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, we can look at the architecture. We can, try and figure out the history. But there are always going to be elements that are kind of elusive.
Yeah.
Open to interpretation.
Right.
And I think that's part of what makes, studying these places so fascinating.
Right. I mean, it's a reminder that we're only getting a glimpse into this civilization. I mean, it was incredibly complex and sophisticated.
Absolutely.
And there's so much more to learn.
Yeah.
There's so much more to discover.
Yeah. I mean, it's a continuous process of discovery. We're always finding new things, always piecing together new fragments of the past. And that's part of what makes it so rewarding.
So for our listeners who are intrigued by Tep Pranam now, are there any resources or places they could go?
Yeah, there's some great stuff online. You can find, pretty detailed descriptions of the temple, photographs, even some 3D models.
Oh, cool.
Where you can, kind of virtually explore the site. And of course there's, tons of books and documentaries.
Right.
That go into the history.
Right.
Of Angkor.
Yeah. I'm already picturing myself getting lost in those 3D models.
Yeah.
So any keywords or anything that they should?
Yeah, for sure. You could search for Tep Pranam, obviously, Angkor Thom, or Buddhist temples of Angkor.
Okay.
And if you want to, check out those 3D models, just search for Angkor Wat 3D model, and a lot of those will include surrounding structures.
Oh, cool.
Like Tep Pranam.
Okay, so those are some great starting points for anyone who really wants to dig in and learn more.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I mean, you don't even have to travel to Cambodia to learn more about this stuff. There's a ton of information and these virtual experiences online. So, do some digging, explore, follow your curiosity.
I love that. And, as we kind of wrap up our deep dive into Tep Pranam, I keep thinking about how, even with all the research that's been done, all the technology we have, Angkor still has this like aura of mystery to it. The sense of wonder.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we can, analyze the architecture, we can try and decipher the inscriptions, we can map the city, but there's still, a lot that we just don't know.
It's like we're just barely scratching the surface
of
this civilization that was so complex and sophisticated.
Yeah.
And that's what I think makes exploring history so fascinating. There's always more to uncover. There's always more to learn.
You got it. It's that constant process of discovery, piecing together those fragments of the past. It's what makes it so exciting.
So to all our listeners out there, if you're ever feeling adventurous,
I
highly recommend a trip to Angkor. It's really transformative to just stand there in the presence of those ancient temples and feel the weight of history all around you.
And even if you can't, hop on a plane to Cambodia right now, just exploring these places virtually is a great way to kind of connect with the past.
Yeah.
And appreciate, the ingenuity and the artistry of the Khmer people.
I couldn't agree more. Well, this has been an incredible journey.
It has. Yeah.
It really, I don't know, I think it really just highlights how much there still is to discover about the ancient world.
Yeah.
Even in places that we think we know a lot about.
Absolutely.
And it definitely leaves me feeling inspired to learn more. I mean, there's always another deep dive.
Always another mystery to uncover.
Waiting for us.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us on this exploration of Tep Pranam and the wonders of Angkor.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time, keep exploring.